You've probably asked yourself this question at some point, right? What is the meaning of life? It's a huge, kind of intimidating question, and it's right at the very heart of what philosophy is all about. But where do you even start with a question that big? Well, the good news is we don't have to start from scratch. For literally thousands of years, some of the greatest minds in history have been tackling these exact same questions. And they've left us roadmaps, these frameworks for how to think about it all. So today, we're going to explore some of their most powerful ideas. Okay, so first things first, let's start with the absolute basics. What do we even mean when we say the word philosophy? Well, the word itself actually gives us a massive clue. It comes from two old Greek words, philo, which means love, and sophia, which means wisdom. So philosophy is quite literally the love of wisdom. And that's so key, right? It's not about having all the answers, it's about being in love with the search for them. So here's a quick look at where we're headed. We'll start with the philosopher's basic toolkit, then use it to ask how we should live, what the point of it all is, and we'll even see how thinkers from the East and the West tackled these questions. All right, so if you want to think like a philosopher, you need the right tools. Think of these as the main branches of philosophy, each one designed to help you tackle a different kind of fundamental question about, well, about everything. First up in the toolkit, we have metaphysics. And yeah, this is where things get a little trippy. This is the branch that asks the really big foundational questions about reality itself. It all really boils down to this one simple-sounding but impossibly deep question. What is real? You know, the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night. Are we living in a computer simulation? What is consciousness? Yeah, that's all metaphysics. Okay, our next tool is called epistemology, and it follows perfectly from metaphysics. If metaphysics asks what's real, epistemology comes along and asks, okay, cool, but how would we even know what's real? It's the study of knowledge itself. So its central question is this: how do we know what we know? I mean, really, how can you be sure of anything you think you know? It sounds abstract, but this is the absolute bedrock of critical thinking and the scientific method. And the last tool in our starter kit is ethics. So once we've thought about what's real and how we know things, the next logical question is, so what? What should we do about it? Ethics is all about morality, our ideas of right and wrong, good and bad. And its core question is maybe the most practical one of all. How should we act? What's the right thing to do? This is such an important question, it's going to launch us right into our next section. So, how should we live? This is where philosophy gets really down to earth. Over the centuries, thinkers have come up with different ethical frameworks, basically different operating systems for making moral choices. Let's check out a couple of the big ones. Here are two heavy hitters that are often at odds. On one side, you have deontology. Think of this as rule-based ethics. For a deontologist, certain actions, like lying, are just plain wrong, period. The consequences don't matter. But then you have utilitarianism, which is all about the outcome. It says the best action is the one that creates the most good for the most people. So for a utilitarian, a lie that saves 100 lives, that's the right thing to do. See the conflict? Now let's talk about an ancient philosophy that is making a huge comeback today, Stoicism. The core idea is actually pretty simple and incredibly powerful. You basically draw a line between the things you can control, like your own actions, and the things you can't, like traffic. Then you pour all of your energy into being virtuous inside that circle of control. And there's a huge misconception about Stoicism. People think it means being emotionless, just gritting your teeth through pain. But that's not it at all. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about being smart and strategic with your energy so you can actually deal with them effectively. Okay, so we have some frameworks for how to act, but why? Why be good? What's the ultimate point of it all? If the universe doesn't come with an instruction manual, where do we find a sense of meaning or purpose? This question brings us face to face with a pretty intimidating idea: nihilism. It comes from the Latin word nihil, which means nothing. And that's basically the idea, that life has no objective meaning, no inherent purpose, no intrinsic value. It's a heavy one. And when you hear nihilism, you probably think of one guy, Friedrich Nietzsche. But here's the twist: he wasn't a nihilist. This is actually one of the biggest misunderstandings in all of philosophy. See, Nietzsche didn't champion nihilism. He was sounding the alarm about it. He saw it as this huge danger that humanity was facing. His entire philosophy was an attempt to figure out how we could build a bridge over that danger. how we could create our own meaning and values. And that bridge leads us straight to existentialism. You can think of it like this. If nihilism is the diagnosis, hey, the universe is meaningless, then existentialism is a proposed cure. Its core idea is that existence precedes essence. That just means you aren't born with a purpose. You're born first, and then you create your purpose through your choices and actions. This really lays out the fork in the road. Both start in the same place, a universe with no built-in meaning. The nihilist looks at that and says, well, what's the point then? But the existentialist looks at that same blank canvas and says, okay, I am free to create my own point. It's what one philosopher called being condemned to be free. You have this huge responsibility to make your own meaning. I love this little story because it makes the difference so clear. A nihilist sees a disaster coming and says, why bother? And gives up. The Stoic or the existentialist sees the same thing coming, but chooses to build something beautiful with the time they have left. The meaning isn't in the sandcastle lasting forever. The meaning is in the act of building it. Now, it's really important to remember that these questions about meaning and how to live aren't just a Western thing. While all this was developing in one part of the world, equally profound systems of thought were taking shape in another. Okay, so this is a massive generalization, but it's a helpful starting point. Generally speaking, Western philosophy often focuses on the individual, on questioning everything to find one objective truth. Eastern philosophy, on the other hand, often focuses more on interconnectedness, on harmony, and on finding your place within a larger cosmic whole. So let's take Buddhism as a key example. It's a huge tradition that all started with one person, Gautama Buddha, and his deep dive into one central problem. Why do humans suffer, and how can we stop? At the heart of Buddhism are the Four Noble Truths. You can think of it just like a doctor's diagnosis. First, acknowledge the problem, suffering exists. Second, identify its cause, our craving and attachment. Third, state that a cure is possible. And finally, prescribe the treatment. And this is the treatment, the Noble Eightfold Path. It's not a list of commandments, but a practical guide for how to live, covering everything from ethical conduct to mental discipline and wisdom. All the parts are designed to work together. Another giant of Eastern thought is Taoism. It revolves around the Tao, which you can think of as the natural flow of the universe. The goal is to live in harmony with this way, often through simplicity, humility, and something called wu wei, or effortless action, like a boat flowing with the current instead of fighting against it. So after this whirlwind tour of ancient ideas and big questions, you might be thinking, this is all interesting, but what does any of it have to do with my life, right here, right now? And the answer is everything. Far from being some abstract, dusty subject, philosophy is an intensely practical toolkit. It sharpens your thinking, gives you frameworks for tough decisions, helps you understand the hidden ideas that shape our societies, and it's all in service of figuring out what it means to live a good life. And that's really the main takeaway. Philosophy isn't about memorizing who said what. It's a living, breathing process. It's the active love of wisdom that helps us question our assumptions, clarify our values, and navigate the incredible complexity of our lives with a little more purpose and a little more understanding. And so we end where all philosophy begins, with a question. But this one isn't for Aristotle or Nietzsche. This one is for you. The question is now yours to live and to answer with your actions. What principles will you choose to live by?